Hi,
Anyway,
Tyler.
hi, Tyler.
Hello. How are y'all?
Jarrett was getting in his
I'm
rant because the
angry.
real world is. Yeah.
I'm angry at Tristan and at basically anybody who didn't fight for 50-50 balls last
No,
night.
I'm glad you brought that up because on the way home last night in my hour plus long drive home.
Right there with you, brother.
Yeah. We were doing our spaces and we kind of got into a conversation about like just the way the team looked and the overall kind of vibe that they gave off. And, I don't think it's ever a conversation of like, is the team not collectively trying? Because we go out there, we see them in training, we see them, busting their rear ends and everything. But you can still be trying really hard and just not looking like you're trying as hard as you probably are. But Tristan Miyamba was, I don't know, I got called out as a hot take last night saying that Tristan Miyamba has been your least effective midfielder for most of the season.
That ain't a hot take, brother. Whoever told you that lied to you.
I won't say names.
That's fine. He hasn't been that. Like the 50-50 balls, the turnover that led to the first goal, man. Like he needed to show me something last night. He didn't, and yeah.
I agree. I totally agree.
Positioning on a corner in RSL.
I mean, you have the missed pass last night. I mean,
yeah.
It was
you can't have that.
Yeah, no, and
you can't have those things when you're struggling like this.
Yeah, and you're in this idea of having to make your own luck and continue to try and push and I think that there are times in we see it like last night where you see guys that are trying, but they're in there. I think that sometimes they get into that idea of, okay, I'm thinking too much. I don't want to make a mistake. And because they're thinking too much and they're trying too hard, they end up making the mistake. And so it's like you can almost see at times, you can almost see the guys thinking out there. And you don't want this to be a game of thought. You want it to be a game of act, react. Rob was talking about making sure that when you've got possession and a team is smashed in like Indy 11 was, you've got to pass quickly. You've got to sit there and you've got to make that decision. You've got to make the switch. You've got to sit there and make those connections. And it seems like there's almost too much thought going on out there right now because you don't want things to go wrong. You don't want to make the mistake. You put too much thinking into it, and then you make a mistake.
And it's to add on to that, like you don't have muscle memory at that point because that's one thing in any high performing endeavor, sport, whatever. You train and you train and you train until it becomes muscle memory, and then you don't have to think about it. It just happens. And I think that's, to Miyamba and the midfield's defense, like he especially is not being asked, at least this is how it seems to me, but he is not being asked to play as a traditional midfielder, like a traditional number 8. He's everywhere in the way that a number 8 should be. But this team loves to build up on the wings. They have for a couple of years now. It started especially with Pineda, but I mean, they're highly effective at getting into the final third. Mm-hmm. It's just what they do from there that is lacking immensely, especially right now. And part of the reason that they're so effective in getting into the final third is because they create numerical superiority on one side, and that comes with Miyamba drifting over one side or the other. But then that leaves your actual midfield really incapable of doing what midfields are supposed to do. And that's something I think to me, it stood out a lot last night, watching every attack go down one wing and it would stall out. They don't have a big guy in the box anymore that's going to fight for those crosses that are going to be coming in. That was primarily one of your better ways to create chances last year when you had Giacomakis. And it's just not happening right now. So now you don't have the midfield that I think is capable of just going and playing their game on muscle memory and playing through the spine. It's very predictable. And then you end up with a guy like Miyamba who's kind of just the punching bag for everybody because he feels almost misplaced on the pitch at times.
Jarrett, when you look at all of this, also we talk about lineups and game state and all these kinds of things, you can have all the practices at the Children's Healthcare Atlanta training ground you want, but then when you have the lineups that you have that you're having to juggle and sit there and figure out, okay, if I do this here, and this here, I have to keep an eye out for this matchup, and this matchup down the calendar. The idea of these relationships that you have in practice versus game state, it's entirely two different things that you're having to deal with here. It's like, yeah, I know what the guy's going to do at practice, but then when you're in game state, it's entirely different, and you have those battles that you have to fight as well.
Look, I mean, it's you don't have to worry about Open Cup anymore.
No.
So there's that. Still got Leagues Cup,
and
I wouldn't be surprised if you get out of Leagues Cup. If you told me, because both games are at Mercedes-Benz,
right?
You seem to have learned the lesson last time of Christian Benteke.
Yeah.
I know you don't have Thiago Almada hitting golazos, but I think you can get something out of at least one of those games and get through Leagues Cup and get into knockouts.
And then give me Cruz Azul in Mercedes-Benz. That's what I want.
He's not going to be there anyway. He's hurt.
That's true.
He's not going to be there anyway because he's hurt. Because he got hurt in the first 10 minutes of his game.
That's true. Yes, I remember that. Yes, I remember that video.
Like at this point, like I said earlier, man, you're just you're kind of going game to game right now. You see what you can do in the window, and then you have to grind it out here. You have to find a way to get through this, and guys should be busting their asses, because at the end of the day, whatever their contract situation, they're gonna be playing for food on the table this year and next year and in the future. Because it's a bunch of guys who are still have careers ahead of them, wherever that may be, whether here or elsewhere. So they need to be busting tail. You need to be getting stuck in on things. You need to be fighting for each other, and it's tough. And it kind of, I think the thing that stuck out with me from the RSL game, where like at the end of the game, where it seemed like guys were just on autopilot, and then it was like, Noah landing someone on the ground, Luke chasing the ball down like a cat chasing a laser pointer.
Yep.
It reminded me of, but it made me think about the video they released, the behind the scenes video of when Noah's the one speaking up in the locker room. Like, I love that he's willing to do that. I love that he has that dog in him as a leader. It shouldn't be just him. It shouldn't be just the kids having to do. We shouldn't be in a situation where we are asking the kids to be the spark. It's great that they're willing to do it. They're going to lack consistency because they're kids, because they're teenagers. I love what they bring to the table. They shouldn't be having to carry that load. And that means that guys other than Brad and Dax got to look in the mirror.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the fact that you have Noah, and I've mentioned it on here before, but he's the first one out to training every single day. And that is not an exaggeration at all. A lot of senior players could take an example from Noah Cobb. But like you said, Jared, it shouldn't be that way. And yeah, I mean, like Brad, he's going to do his thing. Dax, we've seen him do his thing. And I still contend, look, I feel so bad for Dax after last night.
Yeah.
But I thought he had a great game.
There's no reason the universe should have handed Dax an own goal to end his Open Cup legacy.
Yeah.
That's the bullshit from the universe.
Yeah, I agree.
Hit the reset button, man.
At some point, it's all got to come back full circle, and things have got to start going their way at some point, like, especially for Dax. Like, that was tough. And, because I do feel like when he came on, he completely changed the game and helped Atlanta kind of settle in a little bit more, especially after a first 45 that was just very, very demoralizing and uninspired. And, but it can't just be him. I mean, I've preached forever, like, oh, I want the captain to be a midfielder just because I feel like they're the most effective place to contribute to the game, both obviously as a player and then as a captain and a leader. When Dax comes on, he does that, but he's 37. He's not playing every match, and we know this. So you've got other players that are going to have to step up. Like the guys with European experience, bring that to the forefront and say, look, flex a little bit. Like I've done it over there. I've been there. Like you got Slish. He's perennial champion for 4 years straight. You got Pedro Amador coming in. Hopefully he can say, look, I've been through the relegation battle. I've been through the promotion battle in European soccer. So I can bring you something. And don't come in with the whole I don't want to step on toes mindset anymore. I understand where that comes from. Absolutely. But dude, come in, take charge and give this team a couple of captains that are going to work well together and lead them somewhere that they're not at right now.
I wonder, and this is me thinking out loud with any kind of empirical evidence, I wonder how different Major League Soccer is for a Sabalob Janidze, for, who was in the battles in the Turkish Super League, for a Bart Slish, who was dealing with European football at Legia Warsaw. And I mean, dealing with in the sense of both domestic and European competitions. How different it is for a Stian Gregerson to come in from a team that is currently battling its own solvency overseas, plus Ligue 2, plus Ligue 1. I wonder, and this might be a question for them next time that they're in front of the microphones, is just how different is it? How much of an adjustment is it? How, with the mindsets that you had in your old addresses in the address book, how different of an adjustment is it to play in Major League Soccer and be in this kind of a situation? And how different was it for a guy like Yorgos Sakamakis to have this kind of conversation? How different is it to me? And that's just something that's popped into my head this morning, Jarrett.
Well, for all of I know it's kind of become like the thing where we have brought out the little Papa Shot net and put it over Gigi, and a lot of people have taken turns dunking on him.
Right.
He did compete the man won a golden boot during a relegation fight and lost the relegation fight and won the boot. I thought last year Gigi did bring some of that sandpaper that you needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He would go plant someone in the ground. He would yell at people. And I thought he brought that, and you're missing something like that right now. You are missing having you need some dogs. Not some cats, as the great philosopher of Coastal Carolina once said.
Yes.
Don't need some cats there looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to figure out how you're going to put it together the rest of the way. Due to I see everybody in the Discord or the Twitch page.
Well, you're not far off with the word that you've used, even if the channel is different. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, you're as far as like, what are you going to do with the roster? Well, you got 2 DP spots to work with. And I know like, so here's my thing with the idea of like, wait for the manager before you fill those spots. We don't know how far along they are in that process.
Right.
So these days, big managers tend to stay places, 3-4 years, and then tend to wander on. Like, it's not as consistent that they stay in one place for a long time. So it's kind of hard to like build a team specifically for one person when they might only stay for a couple years, even when it's going well. It's tricky, but you're gonna have 2 DP spots to fill. Going into the off season, you should have more U22 spots, 2 of them at least, maybe 3 if you offload Edwin, which going into the season, I thought Edwin was going to stick because of the way he finished 2023 as like your super sub, basically, which was fine. He was great at that. 2024 has not been it for him. And I think you reevaluate the Edwin Mosquera situation and you see what you can do there. So you'll have 2 DP spots now. thing is, like buying down. You're not going to buy down Theon right now. Once again, I know it's like we throw the label around, but like you had multiple DP level spent guys. He was just the one you chose not to buy down for however the cap works. You did the cap people did cap people things. But you'll have U22s to play with next year, and you'll have 2 DP spots to play with now, and a lot of money. And I think my hope is that when you are shopping, you are looking in a category financially where you go get somebody or somebodies who they aren't necessarily system reliant.
Yeah.
You just getting you just go get somebody who's going to wreck, who good like get on field, and you just get him on the field, and you just point him at a direction and say go, and go get me that, and then they just do it. I think you're shopping in a financial category where that's more doable than say, some of the other clubs in this league are in. Aka Philadelphia, because Philadelphia just refuses to spend money.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Like I said, it's a grind because it ain't good, and I don't know when it gets better right now.
I think with the U22 spots too, I think, and hopefully we see this a little bit more from Garth because of his philosophy and his ideas. And I see everybody in the Twitch pitch, like I get it. The patience right now, it's tough to come by. It's really frustrating. After last night, I've said it a million times. That was the best chance you had at a trophy in 5 years. And you ruined it. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with the Open Cup next year or in the future, but you crapped the bed last night in the game where it really mattered. And it sucks. It freaking sucks. It couldn't have come at a worse time, honestly. Like, you've got guys going out, and then you're not quite to the transfer window to where you can bring guys in. It definitely freaking sucks. I just think I don't know what else you can do right now until those new players come in. And I do agree with what you're saying, Jarrett. Like, going back to what I was going to say about the U22s, you've got to find guys. Garth's philosophy has to be the U22s you can take a big risk on if that's the route he decides to go. Go out, and that's where you want to use the whole, like, let's go find that South American talent or whoever, not South American in general, but that very young talent.
Lamine Yamal, come on down.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Bring that guy on. He may be super rough around the edges. He may be surviving on raw talent and Mountain Dew for most of his training sessions, but he can come in the 60th minute and just give you something totally different. The DP spots have to be like what you said, Jarrett, guys that they can drop in anywhere. They can adapt, and they can go out and they can pick a game up when nobody else wants to and make a change. And that's the struggle right now with whoever Garth and Boca decide to bring in. They have to be real game changers. But also the rest of the team has to step up because you can't go forward looking like you did last night. I don't care if you've got, Messi on your team or whoever. You've got to individually be better than what you were last night.
Yeah, it was a matter of, for me, like the Muyenba thing, and like I'm gonna find someone else to pick on other than him, because it wasn't just him. Like, there were other guys where it just kind of felt like the lack of urgency was there, almost like they expected to find that breakthrough and then for things to just start clicking, and it just didn't. Sometimes you got to force that issue, and it wasn't there. No, I think it was. I know somebody mentioned, like, it seemed like only Morales and Gregerson were pushing, and they played their ass off. I'll say Jay was. I think Jay ran out of gas late. I think he was early in the game pushing hard and trying to make things happen. I think he ran out of gas by the end of the game. Same with Firmino. Firmino looked winded when he was coming down where we were in the auxiliary press box down in the corner. Hey, Maddie.
With air conditioning.
Yeah, it actually was really nice because the broadcast booth had like no air conditioning. they were dying up there.
Man.
But when they were coming down our way, man, like the looks on some of their faces were gassed looks. I think they just ran out of gas pushing when they weren't able to find it. And you're just kind of working there. You're at that point, you're working the ball around trying to find something, and it's not there because Indy is just fine building a wall right there because you put yourself in a bad situation.
And I will say, I thought that Saba had a great performance last night. Saba was hustling it, but there were a couple times, and that was the one thing I think I turned I think to Jarrett, and I was like, why are we pushing back? Like it felt like every time we had a counterattack, we would push forward and then we'd bring the ball right back. And it could be because the connection's off. That's something that Jarrett told me when we were kind of discussing it in the booth. It's like kind of at some points, like being a little selfish. There were a couple moments where I thought Saba could have taken the ball, run with it, and then just like shot it. But instead, he kind of went back and kind of like waited for the next pass, but that allowed for Indy 11 to push up, and you were already behind. And so that was difficult too. And then it really sucks about Moyamba because I thought him and Fortune in the last couple of games when they played together, I thought they had a really good connection. But now it just like I don't know what's going on. I have no idea what's going on with that.
I mean, I think a lot of that is the chemistry because you're in such a situation now where you as a team, you did build your team around some of the players that are now gone. Like Gigi and Almada were two vital pieces to the way this team fundamentally wanted to play. They're gone. You don't have a true like-for-like replacement for either one of them. So what do you do when you have to be, I'm going to say it again, pragmatic? You go and...
But your definition of pragmatic is not the one that is the negative attachment that is normally associated with that word.
Pragmatic, you got to figure out a way to make it work. And even if it's different than what you've been doing. Well, when you're in a rut as a soccer team and things just are not going your way, one really cool thing that you can do is try to play some counterattacking soccer. And I know it's ugly. And it may not stick to your identity as much. But the one key facet of playing counterattacking soccer is your front three, mostly. They've got to be on the same page. And you don't have the chemistry right now, especially in an Open Cup game where you're kind of piece parted together anyway. Everybody just looked a little off. I mean, there were a couple of breaks where Nick Firmino, he slowed things down, and Saba was trying to hustle ahead, vice versa, and they were just never quite on the same page. There was one, where the ball was played forward into plenty of space, but there was just way too much on it, and it's just little things like that where you could have nicked a goal much earlier and played maybe to the strengths that you did have. And it just, again, the chemistry is just not there because the three front players hardly ever play matches together.
Maddie Cruz, Tyler Pilgrim, Jarrett Smith hanging out with us here in hour number one as we break down what happened last night with Atlanta United getting bounced from Open Cup by Indy 11 by the final of 2-1. Goal by Nick Firmino late. Another chance late by Ronald Hernandez goes into side netting. Jarrett, go for it.
And to Tyler's point, I'll tell you what I told Henry last night about Saba is, and I like Saba. I think whenever you build out these DP spots, if you tell me that Saba is the third option, I think you're talking about one of the better third options in the league. I don't think he is a guy that is right now consistent enough to be the guy. Like you will get games like you got in Miami, and he has that in his bag. But I don't think it's there all the time. But if you however you rebuild this, you go get a new 10, a new 9. You go get someone else for the left wing, because right now Shande Silva has decided he is not going to lock it down. I think if you can rebuild all that, Saba as a guy who can just pop up and be great but doesn't have to be great every time is absolutely brilliant.
And you can't rely on him.
Guy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you look at last night. If you go and look at, especially in the first half, but just when he was on the field, he was there for 60 minutes ish.
Efforting. Hang on. 70. Rios came in the 72nd.
Okay. So again, I go back to what I said earlier, but this team, obviously, they're going to build up out on the wings, which is what they do. That's fine. It's the final product that's lacking. But Indy didn't take long to figure out they could push more guys out wide, lock Saba, and I guess in the beginning you had Efrain and whoever was playing kind of on that right side, and the same with Caleb and Tyler on the other side. They can lock down the wings themselves by essentially using the touch line, which is a winger's advantage against them, because you can't push forward, and then your midfield is, to the other point we were making, non-existent and not able to really play through. And so then every attack just stopped and recycled, and it took, moments of somebody just doing something fun or playing the ball over the top or just wearing Indy 11 down before you actually made any real progress. And Saba can't be the only guy to take on 2 or 3 guys by himself. He tries, and I give him credit for trying, but that's not the mark of a good team. That's the mark of a guy who's trying to pick the team up on his back and do what he can. But that's rare that happens. It's very rare.
Maddie, what else is on your mind from last night, since you were late? You were the latest in this the fatal 4-way here this morning to jump in. What else is stuck in your mind?
Oh gosh, I don't know what else you talked about. I'm trying to think of.
It doesn't matter, because we can always circle back through, and if there's stuff that oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. So.
Oh god, I'm trying to think. It's just. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, at least from my, I think Tyler hit the nail on the head. I think Jared also hit the nail on the head yesterday too. It's a chemistry thing. I think, you're having those moments. You just don't have a solid consistency as to who's going to be up there right now. I will say, I mean, I really did think that I thought Matt Edwards had a phenomenal game last night. I thought when he came into the match, he really was a standout for me. I thought he did very well. And I mean, I really do. I think the homegrowns have really kind of put their stamp on the team and been like, hey, I'm a contender and I'm here. And I think that's really cool. Gosh, I don't know. It was a game where it just kind of felt like there was not a lot of chemistry and it just kind of fell flat. And it felt flat for me. And, after that first goal, I kind of, in my mind, I was like, I don't know if we're going to get this one back. I was like, I don't know if we are, because what Indy 11's going to do. They're going to bunker.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they got that goal, that was it. They're going to sit back. They're not really going to try and press anything. They're going to let Atlanta come to them, let them make a mistake, then try to go forward, but they're going to bunker in the entire time. And so then at that point, and I think Nick said it best, you didn't want them to score a goal first, and they did. And how you respond to that. And and we just couldn't respond. And it fell flat for me. But hey, you're dealing with a lot, and I don't want to use it as an excuse because, I don't know, but I just don't want to. But I mean, you did lose 2 DP spots.
Mm-hmm.
And potentially Wiley will be gone. He's already off, actually, to the Paris Olympics right now.
So he's Olympics bound. And
he's Olympics bound right now.
That we know. That is
we know.
That is factual. There are reports about teams, and yes, they are probably some of the worst kept secrets out there. But right now, they are reports.
But
Boca did say imminent, though, so you
imminent.
You can take that for what it's worth.
A move is imminent to a location. Once again, probably some of the worst kept secrets out there, but there was no illusion yesterday in a press conference about a location. There was no mention, Carlos Bocanegra did say that he's also in conversation with 15 different teams right now about various and sundry other things. Yes, they're worst kept secrets about locations and desires and financials and all this kind of stuff. But as of right now, Caleb Wiley is Paris bound and probably heading someplace else.
Yeah,
Deals
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I just you lost that obviously with the departure of Gonzalo Pineda as well. You're kind of in a weird state right now of who you have, who you don't have, and just kind of trying to fill the spots. And it's hard. It's hard right now. It's hard to really do that. And it's a difficult time, especially it came at a time where it was just so difficult because you couldn't bring anybody in. You can't really do much because the transfer window isn't until next week.
18th.
18th.
8 days. Yeah.
Okay,
So 8
I
days out.
didn't think I was crazy. It definitely was next week. Okay.
The longest 8 days ever.
Literally. And it sucks because you had a couple of games that were pivotal, and it's hard because you're already dealing with a rotation that's so compact. Like, you don't have a lot to work with in itself. And then you're rotating players in and out. You have I want to feel like we've had 3 double match weeks this month. Like, it feels like it has been.
We're only 10 days into it. We're only 10 days into the month of July, and we've already had 3 double matches.
I mean, seriously.
I know.
Seriously.
What a week, huh? Lemon.
Yeah.
Geez. I don't know. It's hard to build that. But, that is a big factor in it. It's a huge factor. We don't have those slots filled yet. They've been gone. I think GG leaving, that one kind of happened. I felt like it impacted us a little bit, but I thought we got the footing working a little bit because we still had Tiago.
Yeah.
Now Tiago's gone, and it's filling that spot.
Yeah. So basically, if you look at it in a basketball sense, you don't have your big man in the middle, and you don't have a point guard, and you're trying to figure out your offense without a point guard.
I know that offense. I watched the Hawks through the early and mid 2000s.
Oh no. Yeah, I don't know.
The most insufferable person ever if the Hawks ever win a title. You need to know that now.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm going to talk so much shit. I'm going to cut more promos than I know what to do with. Just know that that's happening.
Hey, nothing wrong with cutting promos. Absolutely nothing wrong with cutting promos.
Yeah, that's just me. That's my take. I don't know. It's difficult. I feel like you building that. It's hard because a lot of these players know each other pretty well, but that's different from on-field stuff.
We may be getting a visit from the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler, coming up at the top of the hour, 10:30. Carlos Rubio, the head coach at Hickory FC, as we get ready for the NPSL playoffs today. Coach Rubio joining us on a match day, 10:45. Willie Davis, the head coach of North Carolina Courage's U23s, is there in the Final Four. On the right-hand side of the bracket, they're going to take on Tennessee SC in the USLW national semifinals. We'll catch up with him at 10:45. We're going to have Logan Fisher on the show Friday morning, bright and you-know-what early. Looks like Logan's going to be joining us at 9 o'clock to start hour number 2 on Friday. Weekend Whip Around will start things off at 8 o'clock Eastern because they kick us out of the house at 10. So 8 to 10 on Friday, but that's the rest of the rundown for today. Very, very busy show. Very, very busy week. And Tyler, you had a really good question at the end of the Carlos availability that I wanted to circle back to, and it had to do with the conversations about coaches coming into a situation while you're trying to bring in players. And I thought that was a good question to ask Carlos. And, because you're going to, it's the chicken and egg conversation. It's like, okay, well, do we build the team without a coach? Do we have a coach? Do we build a team? And it's one of those things that you can't, you've got to juggle a transfer window that is offset from the world calendar as the world calendar is getting ready for their matches, plus an Olympics and all these different kinds of things that you had to deal with. I just thought it was a good piece of insight when it comes to building franchises right now in Major League Soccer.
I was hoping for maybe a little more of an answer, like a little more of, I guess, like an elaborate answer, which you never know. It's a press conference. You're not going to sit down and have like an exclusive, right? But I guess I was kind of hoping more of like a answer to the philosophy, like what is the idea here?
Yeah.
But he essentially said, it is tough. One, because of the the way the calendar sets. We all know it. We know it quite well. And he said, for us right now, our teams are coming in and getting our players in the middle of our season. It's the opposite in our off season. We're going out in the middle of their season and getting their players. So like it goes around and comes around, and it's fine. But he said about the coaching search specifically that, going to players and having that conversation about trying to bring them to Atlanta, you kind of have to tell them like, yeah, there's a little bit of uncertainty in terms of like, there's no permanent coach right now, but you just have to sell them, I think he said, on the philosophy and ideas of the club, which to me, that kind of meant more so of like the attacking soccer, the bends, the fan base, like what they want to do in building the team. And I know fans definitely had opinions about that.
What?
But which is also why I wanted more of like an answer to the, I guess, the actual coaching aspect of it in terms of like, do you get the chicken or do you get the egg first? Like you said, not quite what he gave, but it was still very insightful in terms of like how they go out and how they have these conversations with potential players. And he said right before that, they're talking to 15 different clubs or whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it's one of those, really, it's not a great situation for Carlos and Garth. Like you're in a really tough one because you had to get rid of your head coach. Now you have more quote unquote, more money to spend than you've ever had before.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of not in the best timeline of how to spend it. Do you go get the coach?
Nothing like an embarrassment of riches, eh?
Yeah, I guess.
Well,
but at some
it's
point
like,
you
got all this money, but you're
you're working your way through a really odd situation in terms of just like, do you go after these players that your scouting department has figured out? Do you hope that they are going to fit no matter what coach you bring in, vice versa? It's just, it's tough. So that was where that question came from for Carlos yesterday.
Yeah. And that was one of those elements of being offset, and you wonder what the mindset is and the machinations. And in talking to coaches, it's like, yeah, we have these guys that we're keeping an eye on, and it's like, we've got to work on our present tense. And you, coach, prospective interviewee, it's like, here's the recipe, and here's the cupboard that you have to work with. Can you make something? Can you make a meal from what we have in the cupboard? I guess basically is the way to look at it.
Yeah, and I think if you do decide to go this route of bringing in a number 10, maybe a number 9, whatever, filling those DP spots, whether one or both, it has to knock some of the potential coaching names off the list, because some of them just might not work with what you have as a team right now. And if you fill those DP spots now, you're taking a risk, you're going for it this season, and it could pay off or it could crash out entirely. And if it does, then it's going to be a really bad day on Twitter.
A bad day?
Yeah. I'm trying to minimize it to one day.
One? Just one day? What?
Trying to remain positive.
No, absolutely. No, it's just, this is going to be the intrigue that is attached to all of the machinations that are in play right now involving player departures. I'm at the airport all of a sudden. I'm at the curb at Hartsfield Jackson. It's like you see the departures, you see the arrivals, and you're looking up at the board. You're wondering where the planes are coming from. How do we fill our hangar up? How do we fill the airport and get all the traffic? It's going to be interesting to see all of this develop. Unfortunately, it comes off the heels of one of the biggest missed opportunities that you had this season to make some kind of a statement when it comes to Atlanta United. So blatant promo time. Tyler, hit us with what's going on in the Scarves in Spike's world.
We have our show tonight. We will be having Tony Leon, who did the Flags Out stuff, actually also my brother-in-law. He'll be on, discussing some U.S. soccer. He did the live shows with us at the Signia Hotel for Copa America.
Okay.
So he'll be chatting Atlanta with us and a little bit of U.S. soccer, and I'm sure Berhalter's name will get brought up once. So we'll have that tonight. And we just got a bunch of articles on the website, especially as it relates to the youths in the club, the ones who are showing some life right now. So
you said youths. Yes. And Tyler, as always, my friend, great to see you in person. Great to have you on the show every Wednesday to kind of bust through hour number one. We will catch up with you soon, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.